right, bang, bang. Here we are, full slate. There's no buys, 13 games. I think there's 4 afternoon games. We are excited to bring y'all another week of DFS Dads. We also, announcement coming soon, so follow us on our socials, the DFS Dads on Facebook and Twitter. NBA is coming, and we are bringing somebody else on. Cannot wait. Very experienced. Y'all are going to love them. So let's get down to football, though. It's football season. Let's start off. What do you think? What do y'all think of the slate? Anything sticking out to you?
It's a lot better than last week's, I think, as far as high point totals. We have 4 games over 51.5 points. So that's always nice to see instead of picking from game totals of like 40, 45 points.
Yeah, I think it lets you get some better lineup construction, obviously, with the bigger player pool. You don't have to force anybody in there necessarily that you're not on. So I think it gives better players more of an advantage when there's more on the slate, I think. So
yeah, I'm right there with you, Dustin. I think the top tier quarterbacks this week, we'll get into quarterbacks second. It's hard to move past them until we find someone pretty cheap. But the running backs and wide receivers, there are a ton of value. I feel like some wide receivers around the 10 to 15 range pricing could be easily up top. So I'm excited for this week, especially at the running back and receivers. Like Dustin said, you get some edge when you have more games. So let's break down the quarterbacks price. Without further ado, what you got?
I'm going to go right back to my boy from last week.
Uh-oh.
Mitchell Trubisky. Because who does he play? My Texans. God awful. I'm going to take the points that he's going to light us up. We suck. We're just god awful. He's mobile. Yes, he'll turn the ball over, but he still should get 23 to 25 points and go pretty much 5x. If he actually has a ceiling game against Houston, he could have a monstrous game and maybe win me that $1 million you've been talking about for 13 weeks with Mitch.
But Mitch is going to win someone $1 million.
I think up top it'd be Rodgers. He is, 7,500 now, so he's fairly expensive, but it's Aaron Rodgers, man. He's just a beast. He's going to win MVP. He's going to throw 4 touchdowns. No matter if they're at the 6-inch yard line, they're going to throw to Devontae so he scores. I mean, he force feeds him. He's an elite receiver. Great matchup. Their whole offense in a great matchup. So I would expect to see him pop off again this week. What about you, D?
Go ahead, D. And I want to hear, D, who you like for cash as well. Give us one of your cash plays here.
Yeah, so as far as cash, I think Aaron Rodgers is still in that range where, he's gonna return the value. He's not gonna hurt you. I think he's a great play, especially against Detroit, who, not really good at anything on defense. I also like, dropping down a little lower. I don't know necessarily cash, but I feel pretty safe for Herbert. I know, obviously, we all know that the game last week happened, but that's more of an anomaly to me. If you look at his body of work for the year, his first week he hadn't thrown a touchdown. I think it's the first time he threw multiple interceptions. So, to me, you write that off. Got a great matchup against Atlanta's secondary. I just think he bounces back, and you get a little value drop with the price. So, I like him at 6,700, and then. Going down, I mean, I feel pretty safe about Tua and going up against the Chiefs.
RTR.
He hasn't turned the ball over. He played really well last week. The finger was kind of worrisome. Threw for almost 300 yards, no turnovers. So, in a high-scoring game like that, he's gonna find a way to get points, whether it be legs and they're gonna have to score. So, I like that. The running game seems to have come on a little bit, which should help, with the passing game. So I think dropping all the way down to 2 at 50, was he 54?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 5,400. I think is viable. I wouldn't say he's my cash game guy, but I'll look more into it to see, if I like him in that scenario, but I like him on the slate. What about you?
All right, so I'll take a little different approach. I agree with a lot of what y'all are saying. A couple of people that I want to start with about fading. Kyler Murray, his shoulder is definitely hurting him. A few weeks ago, he was 10 rushing attempts, 14, 11, and 11. The last 3 weeks, he's only had 5 total rushing attempts or 5 rushes each game, and so his shoulder's definitely there. So I think his floor is a lot lower now with his rushing. And we talk about cash. I like the Aaron Rodgers pick. Once again, you can go back to there. I think he's in the smash spot for GPPs as well. 7,500, got a pretty big price bump. That just shows you also last week he was, I think, pretty grossly underpriced. And Detroit, I mean, he's going to have a field day. He only has 34 passing attempts, where some of these other top tier quarterbacks has 40 plus. He's just a lot more efficient. And the Packers love to throw the ball at the goal line. They don't like Price got screwed last week with, them throwing the ball at the goal line as opposed to letting him run it in. That just benefits Rodgers a little bit more. Herbert, like Dustin said, a bounce back game going against Atlanta. Good spot. Love his price. And then another cash game that I'm looking at a little early on, might call me crazy, and I actually did not like him at quarterback at Alabama. He cost us the 2016 National Championship game versus Clemson, Jalen Hurts. But in one quarter last week, he had 10 fantasy points. I know he had one long bomb, I believe, to Ward, but his rushing floor is there. New Orleans is not the best matchup, but he's still going to get a couple hundred passing yards. He's not going to hit the 300-yard mark, I don't think. But I think they're going to get creative in the run game. And at 5,100 in a cash game, that allows you to spend up elsewhere. I like his floor. So single entry GPP, my early on, I'm right there with Price. I think all three of us are like the Mitch this week. So that's my initial thoughts. Is I'm going to fade. I'm completely fading Kyler Murray. I'm pretty much done with Kyler Murray with his shoulder and his injuries. If he's not rushing the ball, his floor I think can be a lot lower than what I'd like.
One guy I did miss that I will point out that I do like is Tom Brady against Minnesota. He's been throwing a ton, the last few weeks, and they have so many weapons, at receiver and tight end. Gronk is looking great all of a sudden down the stretch. So I like Tom Brady. It should be a back and forth scoring battle, and I like him to throw 3 touchdowns in that game. So I think Brady's pretty high floor and pretty safe play if you want to roll that in cash as well.
All right, let's move on to the running backs. Price, start us off.
All right, so the 2 guys I like up top, Derrick Henry. I think he's going to absolutely smash this week after having a dud last week. And then I'm going to go back to Aaron Jones like I did last week. I know the majority of his was a 77-yard touchdown run, but he destroyed Detroit to start the year, and I just don't see how he doesn't do that again. There's not much in the middle tier I like. I think Mixon's might be activated. If he is, that might be an interesting play against Dallas's defense, but I don't really like any mid-tier guys until you get down to I really love Melvin Gordon this week at 5,200. He popped off for 130 yards last week against the Chiefs. They get to play the Carolina Panthers, who are one of the worst teams against the run. So, coming off a good week, looks like he's found a rhythm, go right into this game. 5,200 is too cheap. I feel like he should more than hit value. Then I have a feeling we're all going to be on this same guy as McKissick, 4,900.
4,900.
I don't think Gibson's plays. He's doubtful, and I saw something where they didn't allow someone from their practice squad to go to a different roster, so that means they're going to keep him there just in case to call him up, so they have an active or 3 active running backs. So McKissick should be in for a good little workload. I know San Fran does have a pretty stout defense, but any guy who's going to get the 10 to 12 targets out of the backfield that he seems to always get in the games we need to play him in. He's just such a high floor, super high ceiling. They have a good matchup in the trenches. So I could see him really going off and hitting value. The only other cheap guy may be Ty Johnson. I know he did pretty well last week for the Jets.
Yeah.
I just don't know how many rushing attempts he'll actually get against Seattle because we talked about it right before we hopped on. We feel like Seattle is just going to come out and just take out all their frustration of last week on these awful Jets and just utterly destroy them. But that's about it for me in the running backs.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Knock it out.
I'm with you, Price, with Derrick Henry going to have a massive game. One of my fade, I'm going to fade Dalvin. If you're going to go expensive, I like Derrick Henry better, and he's 8,700 as opposed to 9,400 on DraftKings. And Christian McCaffrey's back. I think he's had 3 games. He's played 2 or 3 games, and every game he's done really good. So I like Christian McCaffrey this week, but I don't know if I'm actually going to get to playing him because some of the lower guys, I think Derrick Henry to me still at 8,700. I think he's going to smash. I still like him, and McCaffrey's number 2 for me. But James Robinson, yes, he's starting to get a little bit pricey. Not really a cash game. He could be a cash game, but 7,500, his price is starting to reflect his production. He's getting all the workload for the Jags, who are running the ball pretty well lately. And then he's going against the Titans, and they're allowing 4.2 yards per carry. They're 18th in run defense. So I think it's a good matchup for both Robinson and Derrick Henry on the other side of the ball. And like Price said, McKissick, we're all on him at 4,900. He's probably going to get really chalky as the week goes on because everybody should be talking him up. Barber is going to get some carries, but McKissick is going to get the targets. He's going to get a few more rushes with Gibson down. So at 4.9K, I think it's an auto lock for cash. I'm not the cash expert, but that's kind of where I'm at there. And then Austin Eckler had a disappointing game. The game script was just a complete disaster for the Chargers last week. He still gave you, I believe, he gave us still 11 points, which wasn't, it wasn't horrible. It wasn't great by any means, but he's gonna still get the pass catching. Atlanta's actually pretty good against the run, but they do struggle versus pass catchers, and that's where Eckler comes in. He only has, Eckler, I believe, 1 touchdown on the year. 1. So hopefully he can find the end zone. But that's where I am on running backs. What about you, Dustin?
Yeah, so obviously we all love King Henry this week. I think he's just in a complete smash spot against Jacksonville, even though it is to note he didn't break 100 against them week 2 on 25 attempts, but
that's a good stat.
It's kind of one of those deals where it's not like he had a bad game. He just didn't have any breakaway type runs, and it's later in the season. Teams evolve and change, so I'm not worried about Henry. I also like James Robinson. Speaking of, he went for over 100 early in the year against Tennessee. And if you read the deep dive last week, I talked about why I was on Chubb so much, because Tennessee hadn't faced really a top run team since week 1 and 2 of the season, and they both went over 100. And so, and then obviously Mayfield Baker came out and freaking did what he did, and so they never really had to establish the run per se. But I like James Robinson against Tennessee. It's a high-scoring contest, and he gets all the work, like Chris said. So I think he's fine there at 7,500 to pay off. He should get 100 yards and then hopefully hit pay dirt. Eckler still had 9 targets last week. Love him. Like Chris said, the game script was so bad for them. They didn't have the ball. They had the 2 turnovers over there in the second half. So I'll write that off as totally game script. Going down, I like as far as a low end guy, I like Miami running back Gaskin. He popped up on the injury report, but they're saying he should play. He's a guy that's going to get all the work. Had 90 yards rushing. Actually had the lowest total targets last week of any week he's played. He usually gets 5 to 6 targets, so I think that'll go back to the norm. So you get 5 or 6 targets and a chance to score there in a high scoring affair with the Chiefs. I think is a good spot for him to return value. As far as down low, like y'all said, obviously we like McKissick, Cam Akers. I don't know if either one of y'all touched on him, but
He's not on the slate.
Oh, he's not on the slate. That's right. Sorry. Here I am again, back to my old ways. Not
The usual.
But if you are playing him in the showdown, you should. I have him on my team. Where was he at? I think Ronald Jones is a little bit sneaky here too, because I think Tampa's going to score quite a bit on Minnesota, and it doesn't take much, for him to get a couple touchdowns down there. You get a pass interference with Mike Evans, and the guy gets a 1-yard plunge. So he's their goal line back, and he's going to get the majority of the carries as far as pure rushing. So I think he's a sneaky play there at 6,100. I don't think he'll be very, very high on him.
It looks like a lot of our debates as the week goes on is not going to be as hard as it has been in the past because we're on a lot of the same guys. Cam Akers is the only guy that me and Price are not on. But Price, for wide receivers on the main slate, who do you like, buddy?
So obviously I like Trubisky, so I'm going to like Allen Robinson. I think he's a great play. If you don't go Eckler, Keenan Allen, I mean, he's just – that offense is going to rebound from – like what better comeback or rebound team to play than the Falcons for them. I love Devontae Adams. He's so expensive though, but I mean, he's so good. Like, I don't know. He's still not priced out to where you can't play him because there is value. He's just super, super expensive. Thielen dropping down to $7,000 is pretty solid. I think that's a little bit underpriced for him. Let's see, Robbie Anderson, because everybody else is out with COVID. I mean, it's him and Pharaoh Cooper. So Anderson's already top 10 in targets on the year, and now he's going to get pretty much every ball thrown his way. And
you said Bouye was out with PDs.
Yeah, Bouye got popped. Him and Fuller must have the same connect from their times in Houston together. Crowder at 5,400, solid for the Jets, especially with Mims going back to Texas for a family thing. That means he probably is not going to be allowed to play due to the COVID rules.
So you like some Perriman?
I do like Perriman for a super cheap option. He's only 3,900. As long as he's good to go, I think he's popped up with a shoulder.
Yeah, but he's been dealing with that for like 3 weeks.
I just saw CeeDee Lamb is only 4,800.
Yeah.
So I don't know how you don't click him. I mean, the dude gets 7-8 targets, and Cincinnati's team sucks.
Yeah, this is what I was saying. There's a ton of great value. I mean, Tim Patrick as well for Denver. When he plays, he's a machine. I guess Tim Patrick, then the CeeDee Lamb price. Yeah, that would allow you to play a stack of Aaron Rodgers and then pair with the Devontae Adams if you have those other two cheap guys. But I'm right there with you, Price. If you're going to stack Mitch, Allen Robinson is the move. Some of those other cheap plays like Miller is cute, but Allen Robinson's the guy. He has been hurt in the second half. He didn't get any love or targets. Do you know anything what to make of what happened in the second half?
No, I didn't really watch the game for Robinson.
Allen Robinson. Yeah. Like what happened?
They tried to milk it and ran a lot, was way more conservative, and that's what happens when it comes back to bite you and you end up losing. So, it was more of a game script there because I think Detroit was out 2 of their top 3 corners. So, and it doesn't really matter. It's Allen Robinson, but they got cute and just tried to kill the clock.
Yeah. I think also Price, I think you mentioned him, but Chris Godwin for Tampa Bay, 6,300, really good price as well. So I love the receivers, and it's going to be I'm gonna have so many receivers I like. It's gonna be difficult to lock that in of what direction I go. So we'll see as the week goes on. I'm sure Dustin has a few more receivers to add to the list here.
8,500 Tyreek Hill. Miami has good outside corners, so they should be funneling everything to the best two players, Hill and Kelsey, which have just both gotten tons of volume the last 4 weeks. I think Tyreek has like almost 60 targets in the last 4 games.
Isn't he the number 2 in the league for targets?
He's 3.
He's
third.
3.
Allen Robinson is 2nd.
Yeah, had you looked 6 weeks ago, Tyreek was getting 6 targets a game. And then all of a sudden it's like
15, 14, 15, 10.
I mean, it's so go while the getting's good, because Tyreek's a freak. And when he's getting that much volume, and I said it and didn't do it a couple of weeks ago, but you play Tyreek when he's getting that kind of volume.
Yeah. And not to take some thunder away back to the quarterbacks, but Patrick Mahomes is average. They just abandoned the run. It's 45 attempts to 49 attempts a game. He's a machine with his passing attempts. So it's an expensive stack, or you could run Tyreek Hill solo if you want to, but I'm with you. The price tag should not scare you. And for cash as well, that's something that we've been talking a lot about, is that Tyreek Hill, you think he's not a Hollywood Brown. He's a different breed. He's not Hollywood Brown. He's a safe cash play because of the targets.
Yeah, and he always gets a couple trick plays here and there.
Yeah.
Whether it's a rush or shovel pass or something like that. DK, like me and Price touched on before, I just think he could have a monster game. The Jets, we obviously saw their secondary. If they're that dumb, then just throw it up to DK. He'll go get it. I do like Thielen at the 7K. I mean, I just feel like there's a ton of he's a touchdown machine. He's like a poor man's Devontae Adams. A-Rob, obviously, y'all talked on him. Going down a little cheaper, I really like T. Higgins against Dallas. So T. Higgins, he's dealing with a little bit of injury, so monitor that. But he's been really good, even with these crappy quarterbacks. He's a big target, and he goes and gets the ball. I mean, he actually hurt himself on the last play of the game. He was like jumping over people to try to get the touchdown. And so he's going against Dallas. They're terrible. They're like Price's team, my team, also bad. And I just feel like he's a good bet. He's 4,800? Yeah, 4,800. Seeing 7 targets after the QB went down. Either QB, Finley, or who was the other guy?
Brandon Allen.
Brandon Allen. There you go. So yeah, I like him for a cheap play. Pittman kind of let us down, but he's still got 5 targets. I think he can, as far as a cheap option, GPP. The Raiders again, secondary. And who was my middle guy that I mentioned earlier today?
What's his face from the Jets?
Yeah, Crowder. Love Crowder. Those 2 guys here I really like. Antonio Brown, I know he burned us bad, but great opportunity to rebound. They had the bye week, and Antonio Brown was blowing up Tom Brady's phone saying, "Give me the ball," because that's just how crazy Antonio Brown is. So I think he rebounds. He's going to get more than 2 targets. It was a weird game with Tom Brady threw like 41 passes and he only got 2. So I don't see that happening again. I think you get a lot of value there. Obviously, I wouldn't do it in a cash format, but I think GPP, he'll be way overlooked, and he's only 5,500. And then obviously Jamison Crowder. He's Darnold's favorite target. Good matchup against Seattle, and I feel like he's undervalued. He obviously caught 2 touchdowns, but early in the year he was getting 15 targets. So I think he'll see that, especially with Mims being out, probably.
Awesome. So to move on to tight end, Waller.
Man, we were last week on tight ends, or I should say Chris was money. That's his position.
I'm mad though. I didn't actually play Waller. I wrote him up and I didn't play him. I didn't play Waller. I play him every single week, and he's looking like he's wanting to get back into the Travis Kelce realm of beast mode after last week. Won someone a ton of money, but there's a lot of good tight ends on the slate. On my early builds, I'm finding myself punting the tight end once again, which is fine. But you have Kelce, you have Waller up top. TJ Hawkinson, I think Price is going to touch on him in a second. He's a beast. And then down low, who I've been falling at, the range I've been falling at is from 3,500 to 3,000. Logan Thomas at 3,300 is in a couple of my early builds so far. Schultz for Dallas against Cincinnati, 3,500 is a really good play. My only issue with Logan Thomas is that he just went off last week, and so we've been playing him a bunch lately. He's paid off for us, but I'm a little worried about the ownership as the week goes on. I'm going to have to take a look at that. That's a reservation that I have, and that's kind of where I'm at with tight ends. There's up top a couple really good options, and then I'm really looking to punt it, to be honest with you. What about you, Price? What are you thinking?
So initially I was looking same thing you as Logan Thomas, but Hawkinson, as long as Galladay's still out, I mean, he's going to get 8-9 targets. He's in a good matchup. He's so big, he's hard to guard. I just think his upside's pretty solid there. Hunter Henry I think would be a good play too if you want to target the Chargers against the Falcons and not use expensive Keenan Allen or expensive Austin Eckler. I think that's a good little spot right there. Schultz, 3,500. Like that's too cheap for him. He should be more. The interesting one would be Jordan Reed, revenge game, going back against Washington. The problem is their defense is pretty stout. And then super cheap play. It's a toss-up to me between Cole Kmet and Akins. I think recency bias will put people on Kmet, whereas Akins led the team in snaps for a tight end. And Chicago is pretty porous in covering tight ends. I think they've given up 9 touchdowns on the year to him in 13 weeks, so pretty much every week. And I don't see Chad Hansen and Kiki Kute doing as well this week. So, I mean, at some point you need a big body, and that's what Akins is. And I think he could pop off at 2,900.
Yeah, Chicago's pretty terrible. They're top 4 worst. Give up like 16 DK points to the tight end. And so I'm with you there. And especially after last week in the GPP format, that's a cheap guy you can get that could really, I can see him getting a 2-touchdown type game. At the top, Hawk against Green Bay, like you said, he's returned 3x value 3 weeks in a row, and that's without a touchdown. So the like you said, the target share and the upside is definitely there. And especially in the game script they're going to be down more than likely against Green Bay. And so a lot of throwing for Stafford there. Atlanta is terrible against the tight ends as well. They are right below the Bears, giving up 15.9. So I think I just think the Chargers, you could almost, do a triple stack if you're crazy enough with Herbert, Eckler, Henry, and our boy Keenan Allen. So, I think they're all going to get the volume. So I don't mind that. Noah Fant against Carolina. He's another guy that's been really good as far as the yardage and the catches. Been pretty steady. I don't think he's scored since week 2. That's been his. Let me see here. Yeah, he hasn't scored a touchdown since week 2. So, but he's getting the targets. He gets 5 to 7 targets a game usually, and I think he's in a good spot there against Carolina because they're pretty good on the outside. So I think it'll be run game with some tight end in there, and then Logan Thomas. He's our cheap Waller play that we've been doing all year. The volume's there. and it all obviously popped off this last week when he had 9 and a touchdown. So Eifert's a little too pricey for me. He's been my guy for the past couple weeks because of, he's getting five targets. He was 2,800 or whatever he was. So kind of getting out of that comfort zone for me. But yeah, that's about it. I mean, you can go Cole Kmet again. I don't even know how you say his last name, to be honest with you. Is that how you say it?
I believe that's how you say it, is commit.
Okay. Yeah. He popped off, returned 6x, but he got 7 targets.
So for the tight ends, we like a lot of different players, and I would also say you can in your lineups separate those different players, right? You don't have to, if you run 10 lineups, there's not one tight end that's a absolute lock. So spread it out. Just like typically on defenses, it's good to spread it out as well. As the years gone on, I've been more and more just going to 1 or 2 cheap defenses. Before we get to the defense, I want to say if you like Tua, Mike Gesicki, he had 11 targets last week with 9 catches and a touchdown. With Tua, I was all over him whenever Tua got his first start versus the Rams, but he only had 2 targets. I watched Tua love Irv Smith at Alabama, and he finally was looking to him last week. So Dustin was talking about Tua earlier as a quarterback, 4,500. He could be in play as well. But let's move on to defense. Is it another week we just fully punt?
Of course.
Absolutely. So we might as well just go all the way down, right?
Yeah. Well, I don't necessarily like anybody that's super bottom as far as the last 2,000 or 2,100. I think the Eagles against New Orleans. I know it sounds crazy, but I don't see New Orleans they're not the same type of team without Drew Brees, and Philly has a pretty good front. And so, I just feel like it's going to be low scoring enough-ish. And, Taysom is more of a runner. So if they ever get in a situation where they're down, which is probably not going to happen against Philadelphia, but I feel like he can make some mistakes. He's fumbled a lot on the year too. And so, sacks and turnovers are what you want. And as a cheap defense, I think Philadelphia, can do both of those. They're going to get scored on, but I don't mind that.
Well, Taysom hasn't played a good team yet. He's played the Falcons twice, the Broncos with a practice squad dude at quarterback, and now he gets to play Jalen Hurts. And this is by far the best defense. I mean, they have almost 40 sacks on the year. They get after the quarterback. Their defensive line is stout. Like Taysom Hill, I don't know if you watched last week. He literally could have just thrown the ball away and instead tried to turn and throw across field while a guy was tackling him and threw a pick. Like he's still new at playing quarterback in the NFL. He's going to make mistakes, and this is a good spot to attack it, I think. So I'm with you on that because most people will see, oh my God, so Eagles against the Saints, no way.
Yeah.
But as we've seen, I mean, look at last week, the Jaguars were 2,100 pick 6 scored. The Bengals have done it multiple times. Like cheap defensive touchdowns are random as shit. And all you need is a team like this to get 4 sacks, a pick. If they take it yard, they more than pay off, and that's better than any of the top defenses.
Yeah, or a punt return like Jalen Reagor.
Yep.
The Bengals did really good for us that one week. Then the Jets, appreciate you. I'm not going back to this week at 2,100, but Price has a gym here. Let's hear your gym.
As long as Joe Mixon is out, I think I'm going to lock the Cowboys in at 2,400 because Ryan Finley is about as good of an NFL quarterback as I would be. He's trash. God awful. Their offensive line, trash. DeMarcus Lawrence should destroy him. They don't have anyone who can cover him or block him. Then you got Alden Smith on the other side who should get in there and kill him too. So literally all you got to do is don't let Boyd beat you over the middle and double Higgins. Because AJ Green's dust. He can't do shit. Like they should.
It's the Cowboys.
I know. And you know what we need? sacks and turnovers. And
No, I'm with you there.
Ryan Finley's going to give us all we can eat.
I'm just saying the smart thing about doubling Higgins, they're probably not going to do. And so they'll probably give up a long touchdown. But like you said, they're going to
sack him. Yeah. Because I think on the year they have what? So they have 22 sacks. So they're averaging about 2 a game. And now they play probably one of the worst offensive lines in the league. And they have talent on the defensive line. And they have talent at the linebacking core.
Yeah, the only teams they didn't do well in sacks was obviously Baltimore, which they
ran for 300 yards, so they didn't have to throw.
Well, plus it's Lamar. You really don't sack him very often anyway. And then Pittsburgh, who Big Ben has been sacked like 5 times all year, I think. So
yeah, bang bang to the Cowboys. I like it.
If you pay up, I think everyone's going to go to the Seahawks at 3,000 against the Jets.
I just don't see a reason to pay up 600 for that when you got the Cowboys or the Eagles. Like
I would probably sprinkle them in though, or Washington, because I mean we've seen Mullins just completely shit the bed, and Washington's front 4 is so good. I mean they shut down the Steelers' offensive line and run game, so if they can do that to San Fran too, those would probably be the 4 I'll sprinkle into my MME
for sure. All right, let's head out. We're going to be making a stack video, so you want to come back for that. If you haven't, like, comment, subscribe. And also, if you're thinking about joining, you need to join. The prices are going up. New sports are being added. New dad is being added. Might as well come join DFSdads.com. Let's go make some money.